Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is Mundo. He is a medicine man, as we could say.
Okay.
He works with the plant Ayahuasca in the Amazon jungle. I came out of my way just to see him. Super nice guy. He let me come actually to his retreat, and I'm just gonna pick his brain a little bit. His actual retreat is called Psychonauta. Correct?
Yes,
Perfect. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. Okay, so in recent years, popularity has grown for ayahuasca. Why do you think that is?
Well, maybe it's needed, no?
I mean,
Mm.
yeah, and useful, and it's
It's n-
effective.
it's needed is there, yeah, and I believe that the truth or the things that work they come to the surface. So people come and then other people hear it or see it, and then they come as well, come
Okay,
and do it somewhere else, and the things naturally grows.
nice. Um, and I'm sure you've seen some profound changes in people after being
Sure,
here.
sure, all the time.
With the guy that actually referred me, he said he met a lady that had hearing issues
Mm-hmm.
ever since they were a baby,
Mm-hmm.
and they came to your retreat, and suddenly they could hear much better, like 50% better.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
actually that's a big difference, man.
Yeah, that happens, and in her case it was very short, Sometimes it's needed more time for physical issues. But yeah, sometimes it's almost like a miracle, yeah? Like it's not really anything we do or is being done. Simply, they're ready to release and the thing changes, yeah? That was with them for whole life.
When you say they're ready to release, is it like trauma or something build up inside of them that causes psychosomatic disorders?
I mean, there's many stories, many cases, yeah,
Okay,
and the language also
go ahead.
is a limiting tool to describe it, yeah. Trauma, okay, yeah, everybody has some trauma, and in general, it's even being used here now by the local healers who pick up this Western language, and it is behind a lot of the issues.
Okay,
But in practice, it's also in the way they describe it here, is disturbances in energy or like material manifestation of the energy imbalance, different reasons, different things that result in physical ailments.
okay,
So it's hard to generalize.
perfect. Okay. Um, have you worked with any scientists before that came here or people that used to be scientists? Because I feel like ayahuasca, people turn to it when it's kind of like a last resort. Is that
Mm.
correct?
Yeah, I mean, here come all kinds of people, but they come mostly for their own healing, their own process, or learning as well, which goes together. But we don't do like Western type of scientific research, yeah, that is with measurements and questionnaires and stuff like that. It's not really compatible in my view with the plant diet,
Mm-hmm.
which is more internal, more organic, less intellectual, yeah. So my experience mostly with people of scientific background or let's say scientific mind frame is that in their own process they have sometimes more difficulties because of attachment to thinking, perceiving, analyzing that sometimes can be a hindrance to get to understanding of a different kind because the work with the plants and the work with ayahuasca and general spiritual work is of a different kind of learning, yeah, more esoteric, more less external, less something that you can. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can teach you, by words, and you can write down, and the same way you can find them online and so on. But the most important and the most interesting thing is internal one. It's beyond the language. It's beyond the scientific
Just knowing.
understanding. Knowing, feeling. Again, we're talking with the language, so the
Yeah.
language is limiting. Yeah, but well, to give you an example, a lot of psychologists or people who work in mental health science are very well trained in describing, analyzing, noticing patterns in their clients and themselves, and still they are going through whole lives without breaking those patterns in them. Yeah, so they have perfect logical understanding of the problem and still are unable to do something with that. uh, in generalizing, yeah, I mean, they still make the progress of different kind, but my perspective is that sometimes this intellectual understanding is precisely what is limiting the actual change and the progress, or it can only take you so far. Yeah, it cannot go some places, and some people have this kind of greed of conquering all the mystery, understanding, analyzing everything, I don't think it's the way. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I yeah, I understand that they want to conquer all of the mysteries when really they should just go within and just conquer themselves. Is that something that you're trying to hint at?
In this process, yeah, I don't say it's not valuable. Yeah, for the language is mostly valuable for me as a bridge between cultures or ways of being. In this case, we have very little experience in this non-rational realm,
Yeah,
and that a lot of the indigenous cultures operate in. So if we're discovering something new, it's obvious that we first use our own language, yeah, and then, for example, the science is using this to preach to the people who are completely not aware of that, and they receive this language and they are kind of teased into it, yeah, because for a person who is completely not interested in shamanic practice, is living in a rational world and hears, okay, there is some research that's proving this and this, then they, hey, okay, there's something in it. When I tell them, about the work we do here, there'll be more resistance because they are allergic to, non-rational, or allergic even to the concept of spirituality, for example.
got it. Um, have you seen anything profound in people happen?
Yes.
I mean, I've watched a lot of documentaries. It's all over Netflix now. It's
Mm-hmm.
really popular. They're doing a lot of brain scans
Mm-hmm.
to just prove that it's effective. I think some
Yeah.
people in the Western world just need that. Hey, this is very effective, and there's not really that many side effects unless you're on like SSRIs or
Mm-hmm.
antidepressants.
Yeah.
Then apparently there's like a balance, right? There's like a shift in balance, and some people get hurt because of that. But other than that, I mean, I feel like ayahuasca really helps people. Do a lot of people with trauma and stress come to your retreat?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. This is the epidemic. This is a lot of the issues that we hear are repeating themselves. Yeah, like this, and they are increasing, and they are there are waves like after the COVID, more and more people with anxiety, more and more people with all the things that are really connected. Yeah, depression, anxiety, all these issues are rooted in the same, in the lack of meaning and in the stress of the life in civilization and so on. So of course, yeah, they are common, and people come back with relief usually, or with big changes and transformation.
good. And you're from Poland,
Yes.
former Soviet Union. I'm from
No, Poland was not in the Soviet Union. It was a communist country, but was not part of the Soviet Union.
really.
Yeah.
Huh, I need to look into that. But it was still communist country. I
Yes.
mean, I'm from Armenia, so it was very Soviet Union. When I
Yeah.
was a kid, we left, but my parents still think the same way.
Yeah.
It's very closed off. Just do what you're told. This is that. How did you end up here?
Well, I've been traveling before, exploring different cultures, different practices before for 20 years. I was working as documentary photographer and doing my own projects, usually connected with indigenous spirituality or fringe religions or
Fringe
things. Well,
religions?
things in
That,
fringe from a Western perspective.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I know what fringe
like
is.
when you talk about Sufism, it's something rare and exotic in the Western perspective,
What is
but
that?
in India, it's an example in India or in Pakistan, there's millions of people who are pilgrims to Sufi shrines and practicing in different ways. So for me, this was my exploration led by my own curiosity, but eventually the practice with ayahuasca kind of reconfirmed a lot of that, yeah, or put more bridges between these seemingly distant practices and cultures.
Okay. Um, how long are your retreats usually? Like 10 days, 20 days? Are they flexible?
Now we work from 10 to 40 and more. Yeah,
Oh,
like the basis is the minimum is 10. For the plant dieta, especially one that it's kind of focused on healing. Yeah, for learning, it's usually more time required, and yeah, so people come for different amount of time.
okay. So some people come for healing, some people come for
Yeah, or some
healing.
some people for both.
Yeah, some people come one and then they end up staying for the other.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I've been asking different people this question. How did they find the ayahuasca brew?
Mm.
I know it's two different plants you put into one, but the Amazon jungle is very, very big. How did they manage to find these two random plants, put them together, and finally, just have like a spiritual experience?
Mhm. Well, this is not true that
Okay.
these are two plants that are needed. First of all, there are still places and tribes and traditions that are drinking pure wine because that's the foundation, the vine, and that's what it gives the name ayahuasca or yahe. This is all about the vine, And then there are additives, that chakruna or chaliponga, which are source of DMT, is one of them, but it's not necessary and it's not the only one. Yeah, you can mix ayahuasca with a lot of plants for different purposes. Visionary experience or DNT experience is not the main purpose and not the only purpose. It's just the Western again perspective or the drive for the visions that puts DMT in front. But in the Amazon, the healing is is the foundation, but also exploration of the plants and learning with different angles. Yeah, it's not just about the light of the chakruna, and it's also not true that you need chakruna for visions. You can have full visionary experience with pure ayahuasca, yeah? And people experience that here as well. We sometimes serve pure ayahuasca, and I drank in different places. So this myth of two different plants that is very popular in the internet, it's actually not true.
It's not true.
No.
So one of them could just do the job. Okay, got it. Have
Well,
you ever had a mystical?
depending what job you want, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, as far as mystical experiences, have you ever had one without ayahuasca? Like Kundalini breath or just do yoga, meditation?
Well, I don't practice Kundalini, I do yoga sometimes as exercise, but for me, the word mystical, it's about something a little different. I mean, it can be achieved through those ways, but it's also something that has different degrees, let's say. Yeah, it's
I mean,
this.
like,
Yeah, let me finish. So, orgasm is a mystical experience,
I didn't know that.
and it's about, well, in general, if we have to generalize again, yeah, because again we are narrowing something that is wide into the language, but it's about feeling of unity. Yeah, this feeling of unity can be, very intense and very very overwhelming. It can be also something that you feel when you are with your daughter, and you are more than yourself. Your needs are not in front as in a usual self-functioning mode, and the feeling that it's with you, this feeling of love, or with your partner, or in a beautiful sunset. This is all to a certain extent mystical experience. Yeah, it's important to notice that because people sometimes chase for the big high, and then they will smoke bufo, and they will say, "Oh, I'm one with God," and the next day they continue being the same assholes that they were because they're looking for the big thing, and they don't notice that this is gradual. Yeah, that it can be found to a certain extent in a lot of the everyday practice, not just in those peak experiences. And so for me, the learning with ayahuasca, it's also a process that has its stages or had its stages. And what I've noticed, something interesting that I've noticed is that in the beginning there was more of this wondrous quality in the medicine and something magical than later. And the first instinct, of course, the instinct of user that we have, the instinct of consumer that we have is okay, the quality of the experience is in some way failing because I'm not getting the same as what I was getting before. Yeah, the same thing you can apply to relationship. Yeah, when you first in love and it's in extreme and so wonderful, and then becomes more of a everyday experience, you start to feel like it's not the same it was. But then, ayahuasca was able to show me in different way, and my own practice was able to show me that that's precisely the thing. It is because my life have improved and my life became closer to this
Source.
wondrous quality, so that the difference started to be less noticeable. Yeah, I'm still enjoying, ayahuasca experience, and it's a wonderful way of, learning for me, but the disparity between my life that improved a lot and the ayahuasca experience is smaller. So that's why, I would say that the mystical experience now more and more is the experience of being in the world for me,
And being in the now.
being in now, being, able to be present and focus and drawing the satisfaction from the abundance that is in the present.
Got it. And yeah, being in the now is very important. I hear that a lot. Because some people think about tomorrow all the time. Some people think about yesterday and they're in depression or anxiety, but just being in the present moment.
Mhm.
Do you think that's very important to people?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of people dream about it, and The thing is that they dream about the paradise. They're trained for to dream for the paradise that's out there, yeah,
Yeah.
and then they miss it because it's here. So it's all culture that's conditioning us like that, you know. We're starting from the background in the religion, even if people cast away the religion consciously, subconsciously, there is the same mentality, yeah. It's just been transferred to work and to, you know, this behavior. I must earn my happiness, so I have to do this and this and this, and so finally I will get the reward. Then it's even transferred to the healing practice, or the like this self-help and alternative health movement. Yeah, I gotta strive harder, do more yoga. I have to do more practices. So finally, I'm gonna get this Kundalini rising or whatever is it that you're seeking, and then I'm gonna be satisfied and happy. You know. And the answer is always the same when you look into spiritual traditions of, you know, of serious spiritual traditions. The answer is always the same. Yeah, it's not obtained by trying, and it is here and it is now.
Nice. So you have to be in the present moment and just be willing to accept and just surrender.
That's what how you can put it in
I mean,
words.
I'm trying to
In words.
understand it from your perspective because you
Sure,
seem very, very
but again, we are into,
knowledgeable.
you know, this thing that I'm saying is nothing original. Yeah, you can read it in
Yeah,
thousands of,
yeah,
but the thing is, again, this is not the learning I can tell to you
yeah.
or somebody can tell to me, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's it, and then I just put the right button and it's happening. Yeah, if it was so, everybody would be, you know, happy and enlightened and so
Yeah,
on.
but that's what people are looking for.
It's a practice. It's people what are looking for, and the paradox is it's not obtained by looking. It's obtained by, you know, certain surrender, and it's not a process from one moment to another. Yeah, it's a gradual
Okay,
practice and gradual growing into it.
good. Let me ask you. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like when people come to your retreat and ask you for help for like anxiety or depression,
Mhm.
it's not so much as what you teach them. It's so much as what you help them unlearn.
Its foundation is what they not what me but what plants do. Yeah, we are here just to guide, correct, you know, put our perspective, sink to people. But the foundation is what the plants do, what they unlock in people, and then what the people do themselves. Yeah, meaning not even the people as a conscious self, but more this greater self that it's able to, you know, this organism, this whatever, you know, the thing that we have that can reset things if we step out of the way. Yeah, so in case of anxiety or depressions, you know, if of course we suggest certain things, but again, this paradox is that you step out of this issue, you step out of depression, for example, when you're able to stop fighting depression. Yeah, this is nothing that you should be fighting, that you should be trying to remove, that you should be trying to kind of exercise, to use the religious term. It is something that is necessary, is there for a reason, it's there to teach you something. And when you learn this thing about yourself, when you learn this thing about the balance in life, about your position in life, this thing will naturally go away. When it's done, it's the state, this feeling will go away when it's done, when it's served its purpose.
Okay.
And sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes one click, you know. Sometimes it's enough to have one revelation, and then you're gonna keep putting this in practice, but the thing is done in a way. So it's very personal story, yeah,
Got
very
it.
diverse.
So everyone comes in different shapes and sizes as far as
To a certain extent, yes,
yeah,
and also they come bringing similar stories, you
they
know.
do.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. You know, depression and anxiety are civilizational issues. Yeah, are issues that are because we are really living in the same society and playing to different extent in the same kind of cultural game. So we are affected in similar ways. Yeah, they are, you know, embedded in our individual lives and family stories and so on. But eventually, it's all about basics. Yeah, the lack of meaning, the lack of love. You know, the inability to connect, and then we all strive there and realize this in different ways. You know.
Got it. So speaking of civilizational problems, so I mean this is pretty much in the jungle or the borderline of the jungle. Um, do you hear people committing suicide here? Because I feel like that's like a first world problem. Like
In the
indigenous people
no,
in the
no,
jungle.
I never
No,
heard
right?
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the life is challenging enough, you know, and there's death around, you know, for some reasons that, you know, may not be happening in civilized countries. I mean, I'm assuming you're from US, so I'm not necessarily classify US as a civilized country because you can die there out of lack of basic medical care if
Big
you're
time.
not insured.
Yeah.
But here it's literally this, if you're a logger living far working in the forest and you have an injury, you may not make it to any kind of help. So in this kind of life, the survival instincts are in the forefront, and so there's no time, there's no space for existential despair, and people suffer for different reasons, but depression is rare, I think, and suicide is unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, in the cities, in the big cities in Peru, of course, it's the same. Yeah.
I'm talking about indigenous areas because I feel like people have to work like 8, 10 hours a day here, if not more,
hmm Yeah, they work a lot.
and they don't have time for bullshit. In
Yes.
other words,
Yes.
yeah. So when they come from. Okay, that's funny. And you've learned to see this pattern in different people when they come.
Which pattern?
The pattern of they come from a civilized place or uncivilized, as you would say.
Well, yeah, this is they come, yes, they come from modern culture, yes. So
Yeah,
in
modern
general,
culture.
it's these are patterns that are repeating themselves.
Okay, cool. Do you have anything else that you could tell us about ayahuasca or just journeying into Amazon to better yourself that may be a misconception in people? Because most people have the idea that you take it once and that's it. Wham bam, you're good, you're set.
I don't know if most people have that. This narrative of integration or of processing what happens. It's quite visible now. Yeah, at least in the people among the people who are interested in that. So most are aware, yeah, or at least out of those who come here, because we work with, as I said, in the context of plant dieta, which is more restricted, more disciplined way of working. So it naturally, when people read about it, it naturally discourages those who are, not prepared, or those who are naive and want just to try something for the sake of trying it. Those who come already are either, desperate or suffering enough, or they have read and they know that it's a process that begins even before they come and continues after they go. Yeah, to be well grounded and well, permanent, with the results being
Right.
longer lasting than just for the
I
time
know
of being.
someone personally that
Mm.
he was a hardcore alcoholic,
hmm
and from a very wealthy family, they spent like 50,000 taking him to like different like retreats in Malibu, expensive
hmm
places. Didn't help. He
hmm
did ayahuasca once and it completely like sobered him up.
Yeah, sometimes it's enough. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
enough
but that's shocking.
to see the main thing is to see the reasons behind. I mean, the ayahuasca itself is not really healing medicine. It is a source of knowledge, and that knowledge is healing. Yeah, because when you are doing certain things out of unconscious, which is the case in case of addictions. Yeah, for many years you can be doing something and you don't really know why you're doing this. And when you realize it, and it can be done even in one session, why you've been doing this, then you have an opportunity to change. It's not a guarantee because you can still continue to play against yourself, but at least you see, and it's harder to fool yourself. So that's why some people stop it. If they're smart enough and disciplined enough, then they just stop it. It's enough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they do it a couple times and stop it because they're disciplined. That makes sense. Shows
hmm
them the way. I've also heard of people that actually help them cure their like ovarian cancer.
Yes. Yeah. All kinds of issues, cancers
Yeah,
here.
but that's really
Mm,
surprising.
not for me
I mean,
anymore. Yeah.
yeah, not anymore, but I mean, if you see it like 20, 30, 40 times,
hmm
you're not going to be surprised. But I
Yes.
hear these stories and I hear from different people,
Yes.
and it always points to ayahuasca. So I'm like, holy shit, there's something there.
hmm Yes.
So I came out of my way 2 hours to see you.
So here you have the answer, of your first question. Yeah. Why it's growing. Yeah.
Yeah,
If something's
definitely.
working,
Yeah,
it's working and it's being seen.
yeah, definitely. I think it is working, and I think the modern medicine in the West is not working. You know,
Well, let's not generalize again. Yeah, if you have a need of heart transplant, you're not gonna go to the
no, no,
jungle.
no,
Yeah,
no, not that. I mean like medicine, as in like depression or
yeah,
psychosomatic medicine.
yeah.
If
True.
your hand gets chopped off, I'm not gonna take ayahuasca to come to you. I'm gonna run to the hospital,
Yeah.
right? But if I need something more deeply rooted, like PTSD from war, and
Mhm.
all they do is they'll take these pills and go to group therapy, and you
Mhm.
go for 2, 3, 4 years, you're like, holy shit, my life is going down the drain.
Mhm.
This is not working.
True.
I need to try something else. And I've heard these stories before,
Mhm.
and they come to places like this retreat, and actually they get cured.
Mhm.
So there's a happy ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
and My last question for you. I always ask this question at the end. Do you have any advice for people that are just sad, depressed, or just they don't like the way their life is going?
Hmm.
Like you said, you travel the world. You're a photographer. Now you're a healer or practitioner, as we could say. What advice would you have for these people?
Yeah, it's the same. Really comes down to the same thing. Embrace the now. Embrace it is as you are. If you don't embrace now, including your sadness, including your suffering, you will never get there. Yeah, it's the hard thing to do because it's a natural instinct. You know, I want to escape from uncomfortable, but that's the hard truth. Yeah, you
Okay.
embrace it now. You embrace as you are. You know your suffering, and then the suffering will transform.
Okay. Got it. And I'll go ahead and post your information online. So
Okay.
if anyone needs to, come out to Peru, pretty much in the jungle, this is the place.
Okay.
Right on. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, brother.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Hmm.